Okay. And also, I chose blue with this because blue is a nice universal color. Because think about it. If I made the leaves green, that'd be blue and yellow. If I made the caterpillar maybe sort of a pink color, I don't know, I think I'm going to do that, right? Well, then the magenta and the blue would make a nice purple, and that could work as a transition. In other words, it wouldn't be hard to balance that color out. Okay, and as a matter of fact, if I keep this sort of symbolically blue, sort of like a sky, I think down in here, instead of making this blue, I'll make it more of a green. And what green will I make it? Probably a darker green, because I think that then my leaves could be a lighter green and would stand out better against it. And the darker green would go more into the background. Color is a very powerful way of making form and space. So darker colors will recede, lighter colors will come forward. So I'm going to go into the areas that I want to be a darker green with this darker blue first off. So now I'm going to go ahead and you can see I've got the dark blue down here, lighter blue up on top, and just a little bit of light blue, or excuse me, darker blue up in there. So now I'm going to make this green, and remember I was going to make a darker green. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use my more fuller bodied yellow there. That's the warm yellow. And let's see what happens. Okay, so the combination of the ultramarine blue and the cadmium or the warm yellow has made a nice dark green, as you can see down here. But I think that we could do even one better to make the color even more interesting. And that would be to add its complement color, right? So the complementary color of green is red. And so I think I would use the true red instead of maybe the magenta here. And just a little bit, and not everywhere, right? And that's going to give it this little sense of texture, little bits of color, just blending that in. The paint is still just a little bit tacky wet, and it's going to give me some really, really interesting and nice greens with that. I'm going to use this bright, nice lemon yellow, and I'm going to use the ultramarine to make the green that I want for these leaves. Okay, I'm going to start with my blue, even though I've said before that I should start with my lighter color and mix my darker color into it. I'm going to start with my blue because what I want to do is I want to set up a value to make my forms. All these leaves should be a little bit three-dimensional. So I'm just going to go like so. See how I can turn the brush, not putting it on super heavy, and start setting up for a shadow side on that leaf. Basically everywhere where I feel that the leaf would be turned away from wherever the light is. And the light's just going to be coming down, maybe down from the side, something like that. Okay, so you can see on each one of the leaves, I just gave it a little bit of that blue, and it was always on the bottom side. So if I've got my light coming somewhere from up on top, just the bottom side, just keep it really simple. Now with a nice clean brush, I'm going to go ahead and put this yellow in here, and that'll be more predictable. I'm going to end up with yellow leaves, but I'll go ahead and I'll add the blue into it as much as I need after I've got them all colored in. Okay, so you can see that I've got a bunch of yellow leaves now. But look, all those places where I did it blue are now green. And remember, this is a semi-transparent paint. So the more paint you put onto the paper or onto a canvas, the darker it's going to get. Now let's go ahead and go into this blue here, little bit. Remember, I'm thinking about my brush and how much paint, how much, what color, where is it at, that kind of thing. And then I'll start with some place that I think is safe, right, to kind of see where I'm going with that. Is that going to be too dark? See, that might be too dark if I just used it like that. I think what I'll do is that since this is a water-based paint, if I just added a little bit of water into one of these right here, that's going to make my paint even more transparent. So let's see what happens. Oh, that's much nicer. That's much more the green that I was looking for. right? So I've got my blue. I've mixed a little bit of water into it right here. And so then it's made this almost like a watercolor paint. Okay, so those are looking pretty good. But since I've used this as a transparent paint, I can do one better. I could go ahead and just put another layer. And so I'm going to just follow that line. You see how I've got that line that the leaf had when I first drew it? And I'll just follow that. So on the dark side, I'll just make the dark side a little bit darker again. But it still retains that part of the leaf that was originally painted blue and keeps that part even darker. Okay, so here's the capper, right? I'm going to take a little bit of this. This is still just that water that's been tinted blue. And I'm going to go on the opposite edge, just by the edge. And that is going to give a nice rounding to the leaf. And that's going to be a real difference maker. If you remember, in a lot of the paintings that I'm showing you that one little step that's going to make all the difference. This right here will just transform your leaves from being pretty good to like, wow, just in this one little step. Now, if I was really slick, I would have also, when I was laying that yellow down, I would have left a little bit of a white of the paper there. So I'd have a little bit of a white highlight, but oh well. So I think just for the fun of it, I'm going to make the caterpillar pink just because I want to use like all different kinds of colors. Now, with the blue, that's going to blend fine. With green, it's going to be okay. But here, watch this. So, I got a little bit of blue into some of the areas. Watch what I can do. So I've taken a little bit of just clear water, right? Just my clear water, kept it nice and clear. Okay, just a little bit. And I've got that on the brush. And so if I was to work into, let's say, left-handed here, right here, for instance, just scrub that just a little bit because these are water-based paint. See how that cleaned that up so nice? Look, it's like you had painted it perfect. Okay, so you can see it's really cleaned that up pretty well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to I think I'll use the magenta to start setting up a nice pink and or purple in here. But I really want it to be pink. I don't want it to be strong. So just like before, when I used a little bit of water to dilute the blue, I could use a little bit of water to dilute this magenta. So in here, I'll just take a little bit of water, a little bit right here, and it's like I've mixed watercolor. Except that it's not exactly like the watercolor because the tempera has more body to it. It's not going to spread and blend the same way that a watercolor did, which might be good or it might be bad. The other thing is too, is like, remember when I was saying, well, I kind of wish I'd left a little bit of white around the leaves in some areas for a nice highlight. Well, why not learn, right? And maybe on the caterpillar, I'll make sure that I leave some areas maybe unpainted, totally white, so that can act as my highlight. Okay, so you can see how I'm just taking a little bit of this right here. This is my watered out color. It's still pretty strong. And so if I wanted to make it even a little bit weaker, what I could do is I could take a little dip of the clear water right here and just use that to blend in. Like I say, almost as if I was using a watercolor. And you see I can use my brush, just like with the watercolor, to dry that and just get a little bit of the paint out if I want to and make a nice natural area. Okay, now remember this is just paper, so you can't be scrubbing there too much, messing around too much, because you will bruise the paper. But a little bit, be gentle. So now I can go ahead and I can just make my values a little bit darker and just sort of reinforce the forms that I've got going on here. Okay, and so now little by little, I can use the paint a little bit stronger and just keep building up that color. How would it look if I added a little bit of blue? Because the red and the blue make purple. Let's see. Okay, so generally speaking, I like a good contrast of values, darks and lights, but this is a little bit strong for me. There's too much contrast between this light area and this more colorful, a little bit darker area here. So what I've done is I've taken just, I've got the magenta that I mixed into here with water, a little bit of the red that I've also mixed in with the water, and so I've got a nice little blend of those two colors together, and I'll go ahead and just paint that in here wherever. Just like with the leaves, the first layer is still there, so it's still acting to darken everything up. All right, ooh, there went all my white, right? But what I'm going to do is while it's still wet, I'm going to take each one of these individually. I've got this, I've got a little bit of clean water on there, and then I've got a dry brush. Dry that brush off, and then I can soak that up, and now I'm getting a nice highlight. It's a lot softer, a lot more natural looking. When I'm applying this watery paint overall, I'm also taking the opportunity to blend a little bit of what I've got down here, because remember, the water will dilute things and loosen them up a little bit. Okay, now, so for the details, I'll go ahead and just use my dark blue, and we'll see if I need to darken it up with anything else.